So I have a genuine question here. Why does Trump talk like that? And when I say talk like that, I don't mean his candor or the way he projects his personality or his tone or his mannerisms. I mean like the actual words, the vocabulary that he uses. Why does he speak in that manner? Because Trump's vocabulary, like everything else about him, is very divisive. Some people think it's down to earth and relatable, and at least from my experience in left wing circles, a lot of people on the other side of the aisle, when it comes to Trump, think that the way that he speaks is profoundly stupid. And I think that's a really big mistake on the Democrats' part in terms of what they think of Trump and how he communicates to people. In the age of Trump, the Democrats have very quickly become the party of the formally educated. It was one of the few demographics that Harris actually outperformed Biden in, and that was like specifically white college educated voters, people that had been to university, voted for Harris in higher percentages than they did for Biden. And it seems that Trump has almost like monopolized the other side of the spectrum when it comes to education. Education is one of the biggest gaps in American politics at the moment. If you've had formal education through university or college, you are much more likely to vote Democratic as opposed to people who haven't had formal education beyond high school who are overwhelmingly more likely to vote Republican than Democrat. And that's why I think that Trump's vocabulary is specifically crafted so that pretty much everyone in America can understand it. And we're talking about in America where a majority of Americans do not read above a 10th grade level. And I believe it was a Nerdwriter video that I saw a long time ago, all the way back in 2016, that said Trump basically never communicates in the political sphere with vocabulary above a 5th grade level. And now that is not an insult. That is just calling out what I think is a very obvious strategy, which seemingly is working to be understood by every American. But I want to say really quickly first that there is an incorrect assumption that a lot of people make, both left and right, that if you're not formally educated, then you're not intelligent. That is not the case. There are millions of people who did not go to university or college and are incredibly intelligent people at the same time. So the idea that we're conflating formal education specifically with being intelligent, that is incorrect. What I will say is that people who have had a formal education beyond high school just have a different way of speaking and a broader vocabulary than people that haven't. I genuinely believe that part of the reason that Trump was able to electrify parts of the American electorate that otherwise wouldn't have tuned into politics traditionally is the fact that a lot of those people before Trump, when they saw politics and political discussions, what they saw was incredibly, or what they perceived to be, pompous, ridiculous, arrogant language that did not at all reflect how they spoke to each other in their day-to-day lives. Now, of course, Trump's speech alienates people, like I said earlier. Disproportionately, college-educated people are going to think that, oh, that is incredibly stupid and dumbed-down language that shouldn't sell. But an equal, if not larger part of the American electorate is actually being spoken to in a way that they can properly understand for the first time in decades. This point was really driven home when I was actually just looking at Democratic candidates in the past. I mean, just looking back at, I think, the last 8 or so, if we look at Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, Obama, John Kerry, Al Gore, Bill Clinton, Michael Dukakis, Walter Mondale, I believe that's the order, all of them were lawyers. All of them went to law school. You have to go back to Jimmy Carter to find a Democratic candidate that did not attend law school. And I think that is concerning because if you have people coming from this sort of echo chamber of a decade of extra education, as it were, going to law school, learning the language there, communicating with explicitly the most highly educated people to the exclusion of others, I do think there is a pretty decent risk of a disconnect with regular people. And I think one of the ways that disconnect can manifest is that people in government, and I'm talking specifically more about Democrats, tend to overestimate how much the American people know about the things that they know. I mean, if you work in this lawyer politician echo chamber, it's easy to maybe lose track of the fact that most Americans have no idea what quantitative easing means or what that would do to inflation. I mean, we're talking about the American public who, when polled, a majority of them support tariffs, but a majority of Americans also believe that tariffs are a thing that make prices in general go down. My main takeaway from all of this is that if you operate in this sphere, this sort of echo chamber, where language is like a thing of snobbery, like you need to have this like basic level of vocabulary or beyond to be like respected in this area, and you communicate to other people outside of that echo chamber like that, some people are just not going to understand you. And what they're going to do is they're going to listen to someone who comes along and finally communicates in a way that all of them can understand. And somebody is already doing that.